Welcome to Training for Caregivers on Traumatic Brain Injury. Whether you're a family member or friend who takes care of a loved one, or a professional caregiver, what you're about to learn can help make your job easier and more rewarding. This course is designed for you to take at your own pace. At several points, you'll be instructed to pause the DVD and read a lesson or module in the training manual. This manual presents facts about the brain and how its injury can affect thinking, behavior, and overall health. The manual will not make you a medical expert, but knowing some basic facts about brain injury can help you understand the person you're working with better, including why they may think or act as they do. And this can be very useful in figuring out effective ways to help the person you're caring for, as well as yourself. After reading each module, you'll start the DVD again to see the faces of some real TBI survivors and their caregivers who have volunteered to share their experience with you. Besides giving you examples of the facts you're learning from the manual, these real-life experts will show you how to be a truly great caregiver. Injuries to the brain are very complex. They affect the whole person, body, mind, and spirit. As a survivor of a brain injury myself, I can tell you that recovery may take a long time. Providing care for a TBI survivor will sometimes challenge your abilities to the limit. But as you're about to see, it also can be very interesting and rewarding. So let's get started. In this first module, we'll start with some basic definitions you need to be familiar with. Then we'll review some facts about who is most likely to get a brain injury and how injuries often occur. You'll also learn some common ways brain injuries are diagnosed and measured, and what those terms you may hear, like the Glasgow Coma Scale or Rancho Los Amigos Scale, really mean and don't mean. Please pause the DVD and read Module 1 now. And when you're finished, click the Start button to go on with the DVD.
I used to drive semi-truck. And 15 December of 2000, I was delivering in California, and I was walking next to my rig, and a 17-year-old kid hit me with his car. And from the tire skid marks, I figured he was doing about 70 miles an hour. So that pretty much retired me from everything.
It's been a life-changing situation, one that most people probably don't understand the depth of, because it's not just one part of your life that changes. It's pretty much every part of the aspects that you've been thinking were normal. We're now not normal anymore.
Happened in 1995 in Miami, Florida. And it's been obviously years, like about 12 or 13 years since the accident happened.
And the boat went up over the embankment of the canal and flipped forward with the back end, throwing the people out from the back. And everybody got thrown out. There's 4 people in the boat, and landed on very rocky shore. There was no access by roads for emergency vehicles, so it was a helicopter rescue, so it took a little while. There's 4 people, 1 died instantly in the accident, and the other 2 had relatively minor injuries. And then Todd was in a coma for 4 months and on life support the whole time.
Well, my traumatic brain injury happened on 10/15/02. So in October, it'll be 5 years ago, when I was being so stupid because I was with an ex-boyfriend at the time, and we got involved with too much drinking, and then he shot heroin crashed me into a telephone pole, which came down on me, causing a fractured skull.
Aniko was one of my patients at that time, and she had stitches and was wearing helmet. And I encouraged her, and she could barely stand up at that time. She was wheelchair bound.
I was hanging out with a few of my buddies, and we ended up getting some alcohol. We were saying we're gonna go out and have a fun time. So we got out cruising around, and everyone ended up falling asleep, and I was a little intoxicated. And I tried driving home, and I lived about 18 miles out of town, and probably about maybe 3 miles away from my house, I must have fell asleep, and it was on a straightaway, and I was probably going maybe about 90 or 80, and they said I went out of control and wrecked.
At first, the EMS people didn't know that it was Otis because he had such facial trauma. They thought it was another kid. The only reason my mom really knew when they were loading him up in the ambulance was he has a tattoo right here that has a CS, and that's how she knew it was him.
I was in a car accident, a head-on collision. I don't recall the accident at all. Most of what happened I only know because I was told later. But I passed out. A medical reason, they did all kinds of tests, never did find out what caused it. But I passed out while I was driving and went into the other lane.
And I was involved in concussion while participating in football. Where I remember things is the beginning of the game, we were running pregame warm-ups, and we were split off into 3 different groups, with the wide receivers, the running backs, and the linemen. And I'm a running back, and we were down running routes out of the backfield, catching passes. Well, the wide receivers were running towards us the same way as we were running at them, and my coach threw like a very long, deep route, and I was running down the field, was running a full sprint. Well, I didn't notice a teammate of mine was running at me at full sprint.
All I've seen is I go down to the field, was my son laying down in the ground, and he was having a seizure, and he had bubbles, saliva and bubbles coming out of his mouth, and his eyes were very wide open he wasn't closing, he wasn't doing anything.
As soon as I was just getting to the ground, I closed my eyes, opened my eyes, I'm laying down in a bed, I have no idea where I'm at, I have tubes in my nose helping me breathe, an IV in my arm, no idea what was going on, and I started to freak out, and my mom was right there next to my bed, and she just, what's wrong? And I said, I was just playing football. And she goes, no. I was like, yeah, I was just playing football. And she goes, no, that was 2 weeks ago.
16 years ago, June, I was on a motorcycle, hit by a truck, and hit and run, and that's what happened.
Eric's injury was on June 12, 91, was 16 years ago this last week, and it was a motor vehicle accident on which he was a passenger, and somebody without a license had turned into them and never heard from them anymore. And Eric was on a complete life support for almost a month, where we were told every single day to turn it off. He would not be here the next day, but we were stubborn and just hung in there. And of course there was damage to the brain everywhere.
I was in a car accident back in 1966, so it was like 40 years ago. It happened to be the day after Thanksgiving in Kenai, Alaska. I was in a coma for 4.5 months, and I woke up the week of Easter in '67 in San Antonio, Texas.
She was basically injured on the right side, but then her left side was involved too. You know, she sort of hit the brain, the tractor trailer hit the vehicle and hit one side, and then it bounced over to the other side. So she was really affected.
My brain injury was 18 years ago. I had my 18th birthday on June 20th, and one would think 18 years having an injury, what's up with that? One would think you would be over the injury in 18 years, but traumatic brain injury isn't an injury per se, it's a life change.